Hello and welcome to today's lecture of Object-Oriented Programming using Java. Myself Shayani Chandra, Assistant Professor of Department of Computer Science and Engineering of Guru Nanak Institute of Technology. So let's look at today's lecture contents. Today we will be learning about arrays in Java. As we all know that an array is a group of like-typed variables that are referred by a common name. Arrays of any type can be created and may have one or more dimensions. A specific element in an array is accessed by its index. Arrays offer a convenient means of grouping related information. So these are the very basic concepts that I just told about arrays. You have already learned about C and C++ arrays, but if you're already familiar with those arrays, you should be careful that arrays in Java work differently than they do in C or C++ languages. So arrays are basically a collection of homogeneous elements or similar type elements which are stored in contiguous memory locations. Now, if you want to learn array, you have to learn two types of arrays, which are one-dimensional arrays and multi-dimensional arrays. You have already learned about one-dimensional array and multi-dimensional arrays in C or C++ languages. Today you will be seeing how the same concepts are applied in Java language. So let's first learn about one-dimensional arrays. A one-dimensional array is essentially a list of same type variables. To create an array, you must first create an array variable of the desired type. Now, let's look at some examples to see how the one-dimensional arrays are declared and how the memory allocation is being done in case of one-dimensional arrays in Java. So if you want to declare a one-dimensional array variable in Java, the syntax of declaring a one-dimensional array is like this. This is the syntax for declaring a one-dimensional array variable in Java. This type is more specifically the data type, and this ARR var name is basically the array variable name. You can give any name of the array variables and you have to specify a data type before that. So if we take an example, then we can say that int month days. This is an array declaration in Java. This is an example of array declaration in Java where int is the data type and month days is the array variable name. You can obviously specify any other name of your choice. Here I have chosen the name to be month days and the data type to be int. So we can say that this type basically declares the data type of the array, and the data type determines the elements of a particular type that will comprise the array. So basically this data type will tell you what kind of elements or what type of elements this array variable or the array will hold. If it is int, here in our example it is int, that means that this month days array can only hold integer type data or integer type elements. Thus we can say that this data type for the array will determine what type of data the array will hold. So here in our example, we can say that this month days is an array variable name. You can define any name of your choice, and int is the data type. That means this month days array can hold only integer type data or elements. Now, although this declaration establishes the fact that the month days is an array variable, but no array physically exists in memory. In fact, the value of month days is set to null. When you declare it like this, the value of this month days array is set to null, which represents that an array with no value. If you declare an array like this in Java, no memory allocation will be done and the array will not physically exist in memory. And moreover, this array variable month days will actually be set to null. That means this will indicate it is an array with no values. Now, to link this month days array with an actual physical array of integers, you must first allocate some memory, and for that we will use the new operator. So today we will learn one operator in Java that is used to allocate memory. And after allocating memory by using this new operator, you have to assign it to this month days array. Now this new operator is a special type of operator in Java which will allocate memory. Now I have already told that in case of Java, no static memory allocation concept is there. As you have already learned in C or C++ languages, like if you want to declare an array, say the array variable name is ARR and the data type is int and the size is 10. If you want to declare an array in C language, say, you can declare it like this, where int is the data type. That means the ARR array can hold only integer type elements. ARR is the array variable name of your choice, and this 10 is the size of the array. That means a particular amount of memory will be allocated for this array whenever it is declared like this. So if we are using a 32-bit system architecture, then integer will take 2 bytes in memory in case of C language, and if integer takes 2 bytes in memory, if we assume it like this, then we can say that 2 into 10, that is 20 bytes of memory will be allocated for this array declared in C language. And this 20 bytes cannot be manipulated. This memory that has been allocated for this array ARR will be fixed. You cannot manipulate the size 20. So this is known as static memory allocation, which will stay fixed throughout the program. But in case of Java, no concept of static memory allocation is there, only dynamic memory allocation is allowed. Now this dynamic memory allocation can be done using a special operator which is known as new operator in Java. This new operator will actually allocate memory dynamically. So it actually dynamically allocates memory in Java. Now we will discuss about this new operator which will dynamically allocate memory in Java later in some next lectures. But as of now, you have to know that you have to use this new operator in order to allocate memory dynamically for this array. If you want to allocate memory for this array month days, so that this array physically exists in memory, then in that case you have to use this new operator. Now let's see the general form of this new operator and how it is being used so that a physical one-dimensional array can exist in memory. So the general form of or the syntax of using the new operator for array memory allocation is like this. Now this is the general form or general syntax of using new operator in order to allocate memory for arrays. Now this array var is the array variable name, or you can also write ARR var name. So this array variable is the array variable name. So if we consider this example where we have declared the month days array of integer type, so the array variable name would be month days. New will dynamically allocate memory for this array month days, and type is the data type that you have used here. So you have used here int, so there should also be int. So this is the data type of the array, or the data type of the elements that can be stored in the array. And this size will represent the size or the memory that should be allocated for a particular number of elements. Say for example, if we want to allocate memory for this array for 12 integer elements, then the size would be 12. We have to write the size as 12 here. If we want that this month days array can hold 12 integers, then the size of this month days array should be written as 12. So let us write this month days array here, and let us allocate memory for this month days array using this new operator. So it should be written like this. So this means that this month days array has been physically allocated in memory by using this new operator, and this is the data type of the month days array. That means this month days array can hold only integer type values. And how many integers this month days array can hold? 12 integers this month days array can hold. So the size we have written here is 12. That means we know that in case of Java, integer takes 4 bytes in memory. So a total of 4 into 12, that is 48 bytes of memory will be allocated. So 48 bytes of memory will be allocated when you dynamically allocated memory for this month days array using this new operator like this. So you may think that this declaration and this declaration is more or less same. Here also 20 bytes of memory was being allocated, and here also 48 bytes of memory is being allocated. So what is the difference? This is static memory allocation, and this we are calling dynamic memory allocation. So why is it static and why is it dynamic? The fact is that, let us go to a new page. Suppose 48 bytes of memory has been allocated for 12 integers. Now suppose in our program only 8 integers are needed to be stored. Suppose we are doing a program using that array that we have declared in our previous page, which is month days. Suppose we are doing a program of a one-dimensional array in Java using that array, and we have to store only 8 integers. Then in that case, only 32 bytes of memory is needed. So 48 bytes of memory is not needed. So you may think that it is dynamically allocated, but still 32 bytes of memory is being used and the rest of the memory is being wasted. But this is not the case. Even if the 48 bytes of memory has been allocated, when you need only 32 bytes of memory, that JVM will find out at runtime, the whole array size will be shrinked from 48 to 32, so that the rest of the memory should not get wasted. So this is how dynamic memory allocation works in Java. Let's take another example. Say we are declaring an array like this in Java. This is a one-dimensional array. The array variable name is ARR and it can hold only integers. So this is just a declaration. Now let's allocate memory for this array. So we have declared an array, a one-dimensional array ARR, which can hold only integers and its size is 10. That means 4 into 10, that is 40 bytes of memory should be allocated. But while doing the program using this array, we have stored only 5 integers into this array. That means we need 4 into 5, 20 bytes of memory. So we don't need this 40 bytes of memory, we just need this 20 bytes of memory. So in this case, the rest of the 20 bytes of memory, that is 40 minus 20, this 40 is allocated and this 20 is required. So the rest of the memory, that is 20 bytes of memory, should not get wasted. That's why Java has provided this dynamic memory allocation mechanism. In this case, if you need 20 bytes of memory, then the whole array size will shrink from 40 bytes to 20 bytes, so that this rest of the 20 bytes of memory is not wasted. So this is the advantage of using dynamic memory allocation in Java. But obviously there is a disadvantage that the array size can only shrink, but it cannot grow in size. That means suppose you have allocated memory for 10 integers, that means 40 bytes of memory has been allocated, and in your program you need 12 integers. So in that case, you need 48 bytes of memory. That means you have allocated memory of 40 bytes and you need 48 bytes of memory. So in that case, this 40 bytes cannot grow or extend to make it 48 bytes. That means the array size cannot grow in size in case of Java. It can only shrink in size. So this is one of the disadvantages you can say. And in order to overcome this disadvantage, Java uses collection framework. So collection framework will be taught in last chapters. So this is how the dynamic memory allocation in case of arrays work in Java. Let us go back to our previous example using the month days array. So this is the thing that we have learned in our today's lecture of how to declare a one-dimensional array and how to allocate memory for it. So till now we have learned that obtaining an array, or more specifically a one-dimensional array in Java, is a two-step process. First, you must declare a variable of the desired array type. Then secondly, you must allocate the memory that will hold the array. And for that, you have to use the new operator and you have to then assign it to the array variable. Thus in Java, all arrays are dynamically allocated. Now, if the concept of dynamic memory allocation looks unfamiliar to you, don't worry, because we will go into the detail of dynamic memory allocation in some next lectures where we will talk about object allocation in memory. Now, once you have allocated an array, you can access a specific element of the array by specifying its index within square brackets. And we all know that in case of C or C++ languages, all array indices start at 0. In case of Java language also, all the array indices start at 0. Now say for example, we can take this array in order to access a specific element from this array, month days. So let's write it like this. Suppose we want to access the second element of this month days array, and we want to assign some value into the second element. So we can do it like this. Now let's draw the internal architecture of a one-dimensional array that you have already learned in C or C++ languages, that is also valid in Java. I have drawn the array here in this diagram. So this is the month days array that we want to create. This is the 0th index. As I have already told that array indices start from 0 in C, C++, Java, all the languages. So here also I have drawn it like this. The array index is starting from 0, and this is the array elements that I have already put here. Now I want to do a program where this month days array will actually hold all the count of the number of days in a month for all the months that are available. So there are 12 months in a year, and this array will hold the count of the number of days of all the months. So this is what we want to do, that I have drawn here. So the first month is January, and its number of days count is 31, which has been stored in the 0th index. The next month is February, and its number of days count is 28 or 29 if it's a leap year. And this is how it goes on, and this is the thing that we want to put in all the cells or as array elements. So if you want to access this second element, which is this one, second element means it should be stored in the index 1. If you want to access this element and if you want to put the value 28 into it, then you have to do it like this: month days, which is the array variable name, then within square brackets we have written the index, which is 1 in our case, and the value that we want to put it into is 28. So after giving this assignment operator equal to, we have written 28 in the right hand side. That means the value 28 will be put into the first index location of this array. First index location means the second element of the array will contain the 28 value now. Now let us do this program and let's see how this program can be executed to print a particular month and to show how many number of days count is there in that particular month. So this is the program that I have already written in a notepad, and I have saved this program in desktop using the main class name, which is array in our case. You can obviously give any other name to it. As the main class name is array in our case, so we have saved the file using the name array and the extension is .java. So this is the main method, and inside this main method we have first declared an array month days here in this statement, and in the next statement we have allocated memory for this array using this new operator. And in all the other statements, in the next 12 statements, we have allocated the number of days count of each month, and we have put the values into each array elements. That means the 0th index contains the element 31. Actually, we want to show that the first month, that is January in a year, have has the number of count of days as 31, and we want to put this value 31 into the 0th cell, because 0th cell is the base address of an array, or 0th index is the starting address of an array. That's why we want to put this value 31 into the 0th index. In the next index, which is the first index, which holds the second element of the array, should contain the number of days count of the month February, which is 28 in our case. In the next cell, which is the second index actually, which holds the third element in the array, that should store the number of days count of the month of March, which is 31 again, and this goes on till December. Now we want to show how many number of days is there in the April month. So April is the fourth month of the year. Fourth month means that this should be the fourth element of the month days array, and as the indexing starts from 0, so month days 3 will give you the count of days of the April month. So if you want to show how many days are there in the month of April, you have to print the value of month days 3. So that's what we have done here in this system.out.println statement. We have written within quotes, April has, then a space. So this will be printed on screen. After that, a plus. So this plus will concatenate this string with the value of this array element. So month, days 3, this array element contains the value 30. That means the April has space, this string will be concatenated with the value 30 with using this plus operator. And after that, a plus operator has been used again, and this plus operator will actually concatenate the value 30 with the string days period. So this will actually give you April has, after that a space, then 30, after that this space, days and full stop. So let's execute this program to see the same output. So we have compiled the program using this statement javac space filename.java, and this program has no errors. So now we will interpret it or execute it using this statement java space main class name, which is array in our case. So this is the output that I have just told you. So this is what it is showing. April has 30 days full stop. So this is how we can do programs using one-dimensional arrays in Java. In this program, you have seen that we have used a one-dimensional array of name, month, days. You can obviously give any other name, and you can obviously do any kind of programs using the concept that I have just taught of the one-dimensional arrays used in Java. So I have already told that these are the two statements using which we can declare and allocate memory for a one-dimensional array. Now these two statements can be combined into one in order to declare the array variable along with the allocation of array itself. So let's see how can we do that. So this is the statement that can be written in space of these two statements. You don't need to write these two statements. These are two different statements. Instead of these two different statements, you can write only one statement, which is this one. And these kind of statements are usually used in professionally written Java programs in order to declare a one-dimensional array. So you don't need to write these two statements. You can do it like this also. So this will give you the same thing that these two different statements will give you. One thing to remember that Java gives you a privilege to declare arrays in three ways. So if it is a one-dimensional array, suppose the one-dimensional array declaration that I just taught you is like this. If the array variable name is ARR, you can declare it like this. But remember that no memory is allocated still now. You can also write it in two other forms like this. They will give you the same result. That means you can write these square brackets just after the data type, just before the array variable name, or just after the array variable name. All these three declarations will give you the same results, and all these three declarations are valid in declaring one-dimensional arrays in Java. Now, arrays can be initialized whenever they are declared. The process is much the same as that used to initialize the simple types. An array initializer is basically a list of comma-separated expressions surrounded by curly braces. The commas separate the values of the array elements. The array will automatically be created large enough to hold the number of elements you specify in the array initializer. and for that there is no need to use new. So let's take an example to store the same count of the number of days of each month, and let's see how this program can work using a different approach of this that I just told. So this is the program that we are talking about, where we can see that this is the array variable. This is the array variable that we have declared. It is of type int, so it can hold only integer values. We have done the same program that we have shown previously using this approach. So here we can see that these are the array elements that are separated using a comma, and all these elements are enclosed within this curly braces. So basically this 31 value will be stored into the 0th index or the base address. Then this 28 value will be stored into the first index location. This 31 value will be stored into the second index location. This 30 value will be stored into the third index location, and so on till this 31. So we can see that there are a total of 12 elements that are stored from 0th index to 11th index. And here we can see that no size is mentioned here, because the array initializer will automatically consider that as there are 12 elements inside these curly braces which are separated by a comma, so the size of the array is actually 12. So you don't need to declare the size here if you are using this type of array initialization. Whenever you will initialize the array elements like this, so the array initializer will automatically assume that the number of elements specified inside these curly braces is the size of the array. So as here there are 12 values specified within these curly braces, so the size of the array is assumed to be 12. You don't need to specify the array size explicitly like we have done in the previous program. And then if you want to write the same thing within system.out.print statement, you can do. This will give you the same output that we have seen in the last program. So April has month days 3, that will give you this value, because April month has 30 days in it, so it will give you April has 30 days full stop. So this is the program, the same program that we have done in the last program. And this is the same program. This program will give you the same output, but with a different approach, where we have shown that how arrays can be initialized whenever it is declared. So this is how we can initialize an array whenever it is declared. Now you have to keep in mind that Java strictly checks to make sure you do not accidentally try to store or reference any values outside the range of the array. The Java runtime system, or JVM, will check to be sure that all the array indices are in the correct range. For example, we can say that JVM will check the value of each index of the month days array to make sure that it is between 0 and 11 indices. If you try to access elements outside the range of the array, suppose you want to access an array index like month days -1, which is a negative index which is not there in this array, or you want to access another index which is, say, month days 30. This index position 30 is also not there in this array. So both the indices -1 and 30 are out of the range of this array, because this array can contain only 12 integers. So the range, the indices -1 and 30 are beyond the range of this array. So in these two cases, this program will cause a runtime error. If you want to access these two indices inside a program, then that program will give you a runtime error. One last thing that I want to share about one-dimensional array is that there is a keyword or identifier available to count or to find out the length of a one-dimensional array. And the keyword used for that is length. This is the keyword or identifier, or you can also say this is a variable that can only be used in conjunction with arrays in order to compute the length of the array. So suppose, for example, if we declare and initialize, no, not initialize, suppose if we declare and allocate memory for an array ARR like this. So you can see that there are 10 elements in this array because the size I have declared as 10. So the length of the array should be 10. So if you want to compute the length of this array ARR, you just have to write down the array variable name. Then after that you have to give a dot. And after that you have to write down the array variable or the keyword to compute the array length, which is length. Then this will give you the length of the array. That means if you write a system.out.print statement, say like this, and then if you write this thing inside it, then this will give you 10. So let's see an example program to see how this length variable or length keyword works. The same program that we have just described, this is the same program that I have written again, but inside the system.out.print statement, we have used the length keyword in order to display how many number of elements are there inside this array, or what is the length of this array. So here in this statement, the month days array has, then a space would be printed on screen as it is enclosed within double quotes. After that, month days array, only the array variable name should be there without any square brackets. After that, this dot operator, and after that, this length variable. This whole thing will give you 12, which is the length of the array. And after that, within quotes, space, elements, then period. This thing will be shown on screen because it is enclosed within double quotes. So let's execute this program to see how this program will give you the length of the array. The name of the program I have given as array another. Let me see it again. This is the array another. So the file name is array another.java, and this is the compilation statement. So compilation is successfully done. Now we will execute. So here you can see that the month days array has 12 elements. So this has given you 12. How you can get this value 12? Because you have used the length keyword in conjunction with the array, and that length keyword has computed the length of the array and has given you this output 12. So in this program, you have learned that we can also compute the length of the array. And for that, you just need to use a single keyword, which is length. This thing was not there in C or C++ languages. So now let's move on to the next topic, which is multi-dimensional arrays. So till now you have learned about one-dimensional arrays. Next we will learn about multi-dimensional arrays. In Java, multi-dimensional arrays are actually arrays of arrays. So these, as you might expect, look and act like regular multi-dimensional arrays that you have already learned in C or C++ languages. However, you will see that there are a couple of subtle differences. To declare a multidimensional array variable, you have to specify each additional index using another set of square brackets. For example, let's see how to declare a multidimensional array in Java. So this is how you can declare a multi-dimensional array in Java. Here we have declared a two-dimensional array. You can also declare 3 or 4 dimensional arrays or any kind of multi-dimensional arrays. So here, in order to declare a two-dimensional array, we have to take 2 dimensions. As we know that in case of a matrix, we use 2 dimensions. So two-dimensional arrays are also known as matrices, where we use 2 dimensions. One is row, another one is column. So in order to declare a two-dimensional array, we have to take a pair of square brackets for the row and a pair of square brackets for the column. So this statement will actually allocate memory. It will actually declare a two-dimensional array with the name 2D, and this new operator will allocate memory for this two-dimensional array, and the memory that would be allocated will be for this 4 cross 5 matrix. So this 4 cross 5 matrix or 4 cross 5 array will be allocated some memory, and then that memory will be assigned to the array variable 2D. Now, internally, this matrix is implemented as array of arrays of int. Now, let us see conceptually how this array will look. So, conceptually in memory, the 2D array looks like this. So this is the 2D array that we have just declared, which is an array of array, or which is also known as a matrix. This is a 4 cross 5 matrix. And if you look conceptually in memory, this array will look like this, where all the left indices are known as rows and all the right indices are known as columns. So we can say that these are the left indices, which are these are the left indices, these things which are known as rows, and these are the right indices, which is known as columns. These are the right indices which are known as columns. So this is how we can say that it is a 4 cross 5 matrix, or if we call it technically, we can say that this is a 4 cross 5 2D array, which is an array of integers. Now let us look at a program to understand the concept of 2D arrays better. So this is a program of 2D array, where we can see that the name of the class is 2D array. This is the main method, and this is where we have declared and allocated memory for the 2D array. 4 cross 5 array it is. Then we have taken 3 variables of integer types I, j and k. K has been initialized to 0. Now we have already told that all the loop control structures that you have already learned in C or C++ languages are valid in Java language also. Here we have used the for loop structure that we are not going to discuss in detail right now, but in the next lectures we will discuss about the decision making structures and the loop control structures in detail. There you will see that the for loop that you have already learned in C or C++ languages is valid in case of Java language also. You will also see there how the for loop can be used in conjunction with arrays, and how it totally forms a new approach of using for loop. But as of now, just keep in mind that the for loop you have learned in C language is valid here also. That's why the same concept of for loop and the same declaration or initialization technique we have used for this for loop here also, where the I variable has been initialized to 0. Then this is the condition which will check whether I is less than 4 or not. And then this is the increment operation that will increment the value of I by 1. This plus plus is an operator. It is an operator which is known as post increment operator that you have already learned in C language. We will see operators in the next lecture, where you will see that the same increment and decrement operators are valid in Java also. So here we have just used the post increment operator, which will increment the value of I by 1. Then it will enter into the inner for loop. That means here a nested for loop has been used, where the value of j will be initialized with 0. In the next thing, you will see that there is a condition checking which will check whether j is less than 5 or not. Then in the last part j will be incremented by 1 by using the post increment operator. Then inside this for loop, what we have done, 2d ij equal to k. That means the whenever I will be 0 and j will also be 0, that means 2d 0 0, that means the first element of this 2d array will contain the value k, which is 0. Initially the value of k is 0. That means in this program, for the 0th value, it will contain a value 0, which is the value of k. Then k will be incremented by 1. After that, I will remain 0, but j will be incremented by 1. So this will indicate the 0 1 cell. The 0 1 cell will contain the next value of k, which is k plus plus. K plus plus has been done here. That means k will be incremented by 1. That means 0 1 cell will contain the value k, the value of k, which is 1 now. So 0 1 cell will actually contain 1. Next, the value of I will remain 0, but j will be incremented by 1. So j will be now 2. That means it will indicate the 0 2 cell, and this will hold the next value of k, which is 2. That means this program will actually print a 4 cross 5 matrix where the value 0th value will be 0 and the 4/5 value will be 15. So let's execute this program to see how this program works. Here you will see that the same two for loops have been used in order to print the value of the array. Let's go to the command prompt to see how this program works. So the program is compiled perfectly. Now let's see how to execute. So this is how we will execute the program, and it will give you, sorry, there are 4 rows actually, I have forgotten. So it will print 0 to 19. That means a total of 20 elements will be there in the 4 cross 5 arrays. So there are 4 rows because the dimension is set as 4 for the row. So it will print 0 to 19, that is 20 elements it will print. So here you can see that the elements that are being printed are 0 1 2 3 4, then 5 6 7 8 9, then 10 11 12 13 14, and lastly 15 16 17 18 19, because k has been incremented by 1 and each of the k values has been put or allocated into each cell, which are being represented with the integer variables I and j, where I indicates the row number and j indicates the column number, and k will actually contain the values to be put into that cell indicated by ij. So this is a program, this is an example program using the 2D arrays that are being used in Java. Now, whenever you allocate memory for a multi-dimensional array, you need to specify the memory for the first dimension only. First dimension means the row dimension. You can allocate the remaining dimensions separately also. For example, let's take this array, 2D array. When it is declared, let's allocate the memory for the first dimension only, and then we will allocate the second dimension manually. Let's see how to do it. This is how you can allocate the same memory or the same 2D array by first giving only the row size. Here in this statement we have mentioned only the leftmost dimension, which is the row dimension, and we have kept this column dimension blank, and then we have allocated the column manually here. So for the 2D, for this 2D array, for the 0th column there will be 5, for the 0th row, sorry, there will be 5 columns. For the first row, there will be 5 columns. For the second row, there will still be 5 columns. And for the third row, there will still be 5 columns. So for all the rows, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, we will have 5 columns in this array. Then only this will be a 4 cross 5 matrix. So instead of defining this 2D array, that we have defined in our previous example like this. So in our previous example, we have defined the 2D array like this. Instead of defining it like this, you can also define it like this. That means we are defining the columns manually. You may think that there is no advantage to individually allocating the second dimension of the 2D arrays in this situation, but there may be some advantages in other situations. For example, it may happen that you want to allocate dimensions manually. Whenever you want to allocate dimensions manually, you do not need to allocate the same number of elements for each dimension. As already stated, that multidimensional arrays are actually arrays of arrays. So the length of the each array is under your control. For example, let's take a conceptual look of a scenario where you will see that the number of columns will vary for each row. Here you have seen that for each of the rows that are mentioned here, the number of columns is same. But what if the number of columns are different for each of the rows? In that case, the number of columns will vary for each of the rows mentioned. So in that case, using this kind of approach where you can allocate the columns manually will be very much helpful. Let's look at the conceptual look of how to use that kind of structures in order to define an array like this. Suppose in a program, by using 2D array, you want to print a pattern like this. So this pattern can be conceptually thought of like this, where this is the 0 0 element, this is the 1 0 element, this is the 1 1 element, and so on. So if we look at the 0th row, which is this row, so this is the 0th row. In this row, only one column is there. This is the first row. In this first row, two columns are there. This is one column and this is another column. This is the second row. In this second row, we can see three columns are there. Three columns are there. This is the third row, where you can see that four columns are there. That means for each row, the number of columns is being varied. So this is one of the situations where using the manual declaration of column is very much helpful for the 2D arrays, where you can omit the rightmost dimension or the column dimension of the array while declaring and allocating memory for it, and then you are declaring the column dimension manually. This type of array declaration is very much helpful if the condition is something like this, where the number of columns is varied for each of the rows. So if you want to allocate memory for this kind of structure, or if you want to print a pattern like this which will follow these kind of structures, you can do it like this. This is how you can allocate memory for this kind of structure. Here in this statement, we have shown that only the leftmost dimension or the row dimension has been allocated, and then the column dimension is left. It is kept blank, it is not allocated. Then after this statement, in the rest of the four statements, we have allocated this column dimension manually. Because for the 0th row, only one column is there. So 2d0 is equal to new int 1. One column for 0th row. For the first row, here we can see that two columns are there. So for the first row, two columns are there. In the second row, we have shown that there are three columns. So in the second row, there are three columns. In the third row, we have shown that there are four columns. So for the third row, there are four columns. So this is the approach that is very much useful for declaring a structure like this or printing some pattern like this, which will use the concept of 2D arrays. Then you can complete the rest of the program using the same technique that we have shown in the previous 2D array program. So the use of uneven or irregular multidimensional arrays may not be appropriate for many applications because it runs contrary to what people expect to find when a multidimensional array is encountered. However, irregular arrays can be used effectively in some situations. For example, we can say if you need a very large two-dimensional array that is sparsely populated, that is an array in which not all of the elements will be used, then an irregular array might be a perfect solution. It is possible to initialize multidimensional arrays just like a one-dimensional array, and to do so we just have to simply enclose each dimension's initializer within its own set of curly braces. So this is how you can do that. This is how you can initialize a two-dimensional array. In this case, you can see that this will initialize a 4 cross 4 two-dimensional array or a 4 cross 4 matrix where there are 4 rows and there are 4 columns. So the 0 0 element will be 0, the 0 1 element will be 1, the 0 2 element will be 2, the 0 3 element will be 3. The 1 0 element will be 4, the 1 1 element will be 5, the 1 2 element will be 6, the 1 3 element will be 7, and so on. So this is the 3 3 element as the indices starts from 0. So this is how you can initialize a 2D array also, just like a 1D array. And in this way, you don't need to initialize the sizes, because if you initialize a 2D array like this, the array initializer will automatically assume that this is a 4 cross 4 2D array. So it will automatically assume its size to be 4 cross 4, where 4 is the row number and this 4 is the column number. And then you can do programming like the way I have shown in the program using 2D array. You can also use this concept of 2D array initialization to do the same program that I have shown already. So in today's lecture, we have learned about arrays that are being used in Java, and there are two types that we have discussed, which are one-dimensional arrays and multi-dimensional arrays. This is all about arrays in Java. As you all know that everything can be treated in Java as an object, literally everything. So arrays can also be treated as an object in Java. So basically the arrays that we normally use, the user defined arrays that are being used to do any kind of manipulations or programs, all are treated as an array object. So this is the concept of array that we have learned today. So we have seen that the concept of array in Java is a bit different from the concept of C or C++ arrays. And we have also shown that how the same concept can be implemented in Java. Thank you for listening to today's lectures. In the next lecture, we will show that how the operators being used in Java, and what are the operators that you have already learned in C or C++ languages. What are the similarities or dissimilarities of the operators in C or C++ languages and Java language.